What's going on, you guys? My name is Mike, and welcome back. Now, since last week, we've had 9 subscribers, which is very cool. Actually, I have a couple of names, new friends in the EOS community. Suvi, Kevin Rose from EOS New York, Brandon, Camille, Danish from EOS Exchange or EOS X, and Renee. So, I have a question to ask you guys. What is your EOS journey? How did you ultimately lead up to this point of following EOS? What made you interested about EOS? And overall, why are you so excited going forward? So for me, back in 2016, I started with Bitcoin. I didn't know, I heard about this thing called Bitcoin. I didn't know what it was. And at the time, I had some inheritance money and I wanted to invest in something, and I was thinking about the stock markets, but I wanted to figure out why people like Bitcoin so much. So that was kind of the beginning of my journey. And then after I started learning more about Bitcoin, then I realized, hey, what about this protocol called Ethereum? And at the time, I think Ethereum was $13 or something like that. I think I bought in at 12 or $13. And of course, I had the huge runoff. And I must admit, and don't hate me for this, but I was extremely bullish on Ethereum. And don't get me wrong, I still like Ethereum. Um, so after Ethereum, then I wanted to see. All right, so I started to realize what some of the shortcomings were with Ethereum. For example, it takes a little while, and I was messing around with the gambling games. So when you're playing slots and you have to wait 3 minutes, it felt like, for a confirmation just to play one game of slots or to do it once. It wasn't really the best experience. And I know that they're working on stuff. And once again, I still like Ethereum a lot. But then I started to learn about EOS. And of course, you hear a lot of the FUD about how it's a scam. And at first I just kind of blew it off as, yeah, maybe it is a scam. I don't know anything about it. But then after mainnet, I ultimately got scattered, and I remember, and tell me if you guys can relate to this, but I remember playing that first Dapp. I think it was Dice or something. I don't know what it was. I think it was a gambling game. I'm assuming it was Dice, and I remember how fast that transaction went through, and it was like a mind blowing experience to see how fast something that transaction could happen. And then on top of that, I remember trying to transfer some EOS into another account that I created. And once again, I love that it was a username, and I love that it was like milliseconds to send. So I think that's why I was hooked. And I started to realize some of the major shortcomings, especially like right now during the bear market. You start to really self-reflect and say, what are the protocols that are going to do well in the future? And for me, I thought EOS was going to be one of the bigger ones. I do think that there's going to be other protocols for other use cases. I don't think it's a one protocol and that's for everything, one size fits all. I think there's going to be different ones, but I must admit, EOS right now is my favorite, and I think the amount of energy that's being put on into the community and the amount of dApps being created. I mean, I come from a non-tech background, and the fact that I'm able to build on top of EOS, like when I created, right now we're doing the EOS Bluff, which is the player versus player game, gambling game. The fact that I can contribute and I can have fun with it, and it's fast. I'm surprised there aren't more people into it. So anyways, that's my story. What I want to hear from you guys, though, how did you get into it? What's your journey? What was the epiphany you had? Is EOS, in your opinion, the number one protocol that will ever exist, or do you think there will be other protocols in the future? I want to hear your thoughts, and I hope you guys have a great week. Talk to you soon.